Yeah, what will we be saying about that basketball team, and what will the national discourse be about Kevin Durant and his future with the Phoenix Suns? How is he going to look tonight? I mean, it's been a couple of weeks now since the trade deadline, and Kevin Durant mostly has played and mostly has looked like Kevin Durant. There have been times where he didn't. You know, the end of that game against Memphis the other night was kind of one of them. There was the Toronto game where he looked like he might have been tired on the second night of a back-to-back. But Gambo, as we kind of pointed out when that trade deadline went down and Kevin Durant didn't get moved, we basically said, okay, prepare yourself now because there isn't a week that's going to go by without speculation about Kevin Durant's future, right? Like
I said that to you. I said that to you on like February, right after the deadline on February 6th. I said to Burns, I go, do you think we'll have a single week that will go by between now and the summer where there's not speculation on Kevin Durant? You're like, nope. Nope. No, there's not going to be. And I was like, man, I just wonder if we'll have even just a reprieve for 1 week where nobody talks about where Kevin Durant may end up this summer. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen.
I mean, at this point, I have to wonder, you know, now admittedly, we could choose not to bring it to you. But we're bringing it to you because the discourse on Kevin Durant continues to be compelling and interesting and thought-provoking and all of that stuff. But, man, so far we've hardly been able to go a day without speculation about Kevin Durant and his future and what's going to happen and things like that. And admittedly, some of it is because of Kevin Durant himself. He goes on Draymond Green's podcast and he talks about why he didn't want to go to Golden State and what's his future going to look like and is he going to end his career in Phoenix. I mean, he's kind of stirring the pot too, right, by going on Draymond Green's podcast and talking about this.
No, he is. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, he is absolutely, adding to this by talking about it.
Yeah, and so maybe he doesn't mind the discourse or maybe he doesn't mind the conversation. Either way, the discourse today on First Take was Stephen A. and Brian Windhorst, and a lot of it stemmed from Kevin Durant. I'm going to replay this now. Kevin Durant on Draymond Green's pod on why he did not want to go to Golden State.
As far as the Warriors, I just didn't think it was, and then I didn't want to move. And then as a player like me, I cost a lot. Me going into your team is going to make it's going to be a whole new era of your team when I get to your team. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's a lot of work. And
change
through the season, like I'm still of value, you know what I'm saying? Especially in my contract and just my production. That me just getting up and moving in the middle of the season, it's going to be a big blow to any team I'm going to. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
okay, so there's that, and that was what they were reacting to today. Here's Stephen A. on First Take on if Kevin Durant is really that good, why is he not winning more?
The fact of the matter is, this brother, as one of the unquestionable all-time greats. And I don't want to hear me talking about his legacy. I know his legacy is intact. I know how phenomenal he is. This is not about that. This is about the fact that over the last 4 to 5 years, that brother has been home in April.
Yeah,
we ain't even talking championships. We talk about he been home in April. You act like that don't matter. We supposed to ignore all of that.
Right.
He is that great.
That'll give
Not
you.
April.
That one I'll
You're
give you.
damn right. Well, that's what I've been saying.
All right.
Well, that's what I've been saying.
When Stephen A. goes up a whole octave, you know it's serious, right?
But in a nutshell, just in a nutshell, that's the answer to why you're making a trade of Kevin Durant in the summer, because he's been home in April for this. If he's home in April now, it'll be 3 straight years.
Yeah,
and backwards. I mean, the first year you got to the second round. Last year you got swept. This year you may not even make the play-in. You gave it 3 years. I don't blame. Now you know me. I did not want to make the trade. I did not want to. And what Durant is saying, I mean, I wish he would have said this when he came to Phoenix. Hey, it cost a lot to trade for me. Yeah, Jay Crowder, Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, and all the draft picks. Mm-hmm. You're right. You're right. That's
expensive.
One of the main reasons.
You're expensive.
The Suns,
yeah.
You're expensive. One of the main reasons the Suns have not won is because of how much they had to give up for Kevin Durant.
Well, and it's funny that you say that because in this discourse now today, Brian Windhorst, I think mostly defending Kevin Durant, saying, look, yeah, it didn't work in Brooklyn and yeah, it didn't work in Phoenix, but neither one of those circumstances are his fault.
Do the Warriors win the championship against LeBron and against KD, who they barely beat, and against Kawhi? KD. Okay.
No.
What are we talking about? He went there, they won, okay? Why did they lose in Brooklyn? Did they lose in Brooklyn because of leadership? No. They lost in Brooklyn because KD was hurt, and then Harden got hurt, and then Kyrie got hurt, and then COVID happened, and Kyrie went off. That's why they lost there, okay? Why are they losing in Phoenix? They're losing in Phoenix because they traded too much to get him. right?
Yeah.
And so now he's saying, even though I don't think it's a whole answer, don't trade too much for me because it's already undercut me. We're analyzing this too much. This is actually very, very simple. He went to the place where he could win a championship, and he's had circumstances that have prevented it from happening since.
In other words, it's not his fault. It's not his fault it didn't happen in Brooklyn. It's not his fault it didn't happen in Phoenix.
Yeah, and I don't agree with that. I mean, I don't. Like, if they would have been a better team if they were able to hold on to their players, but you know, you've got to be accountable as a player. You got to be accountable. Like you're Kevin Durant. Bill Simmons said it yesterday, and we talked about it, that Kevin Durant is in decline. You know, he's still a great player, but he's not the same player he used to be. He hasn't been able to, as great as he is, you would think that he'd be able to elevate this team to be better than what they are. And that's the problem I have. That's why I don't think you could be faultless for Durant. I mean, there's blame to go around everywhere, right?
Yeah,
From ownership to management to the coach to the players. Okay? Nobody's free of blame. But I always put the majority of the blame on the player. Why hasn't Kevin Durant and Devin Booker been able to elevate this team to a higher level than what they are? I'm not saying they need to win the championship, you know, to justify it. But there's no way in the world we should be talking about this team being 4 games under 500 when you've got 2 future Hall of Famers on your roster in their prime.
Yeah, and that's where it starts going off into different directions with the conversation. Is it Kevin Durant's fault they haven't won a championship? There's a lot of reasons why they haven't won a championship. But is it Kevin Durant's fault that they're not better than what they are? Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that's where, like, is it Kevin Durant's fault that this is as big of a failure as it is? I think he and Devin Booker certainly are the 2 main answers to that question. There is no way that a team with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, 40% of the starting lineup of the gold medal winning team in the Olympics this past year. There is no way that a team with those 2 guys on it should be 4 games under 500
No way.
and closer to the 12th seed than they are the 10th seed.
Nope.
And if we're playing the blame game and you're going to say, why are the Suns as bad as they are? I will start with those 2 and say, because those 2 haven't been as good as they need to. Those 2 haven't been good enough to get them. If the conversation shifts to why haven't the Suns won a championship, that's kind of a different conversation, right? I mean, the Suns, I don't know if anybody knew for sure the Suns were ever going to be that good. Nobody thought they were going to be this bad. It's impossible for them to be this bad with the talent they have on this roster. And yet here we are, they're this bad. And I don't get it. I still don't get it.
I mean, it's fit. The right pieces are not. I mean, if Jimmy Butler was here, they'd be better. You know, because look what he's done with Golden State. They you know, Kevin Durant and Devin Booker are not leaders. Like, they're not, you know, alpha leaders. You know, they're not that guy. You know, I was talking with somebody today in the NBA about, like, if the Suns make a trade for Houston and they're like, they should get Dylan Brooks. I'm like, Dylan Brooks? I'm like, oh my God, he's such a pain in the ass. He goes, yeah, but he's a leader.
Yeah,
like, you don't understand. Like, he's a leader.
Gambo, whoever it was you were talking to, cosign. Totally agree. Yeah, Dylan Brooks is a pain in the ass.
He's a pain in the ass.
He's also a hard-nosed, tough SOB who's just going to come in and
you don't get back on defense, he's going to get on your ass.
He's gonna be like a bolt of lightning to this team, and that's where, if we're having the bigger picture conversation of blame, and that's where I start to look at a front office who built a roster filled with a bunch of finesse basketball players who don't have a lot of toughness.
No,
and
no physicality, no softness. It was built the wrong way.
It was built the wrong way.
It's unfortunate, but it was.
That's why they're not winning a championship, because their roster is just way lopsided with too many of the wrong type of player and not enough of the tough player. But that alone does not explain why they're this bad. It just doesn't. And that's why they're this bad is a Kevin Durant, Devin Booker conversation. Why they're not good enough to compete for titles, that's a totally different deal with the front office and the coaching and the things like that. So
I agree. I think there's, it's the roster construction is not the way it. Now, even if the roster construction was better, they may not win a championship, but they certainly are not going to be in the position that they're in right now.
By the way, for what it's worth, there was a conversation, and I didn't have time to get to it, but I'll just bring this up and we can swing back to it later. There was a conversation this morning on Get Up about where should Kevin Durant go next season. Alan Hahn suggested Oklahoma City. Rudy Gay suggested the Miami Heat. Mike Greenberg suggested the Dallas Mavericks, for what it's worth.
Thanks for watching Burns and Gambo. Click to see more from the guys and hit the button in the middle to subscribe so you never miss a video from Arizona sports.